All right, so today we are doing some really simple stuff, some basics. We are loading a bobbin and putting it in the shuttle and back in the machine. I was asked a question about this recently, and being as how today I actually need to do this for my own purposes, I figured I might as well make a video about it. All right, so let's start with this. This guy, come on, focus please, please. There we are. So this is a long bobbin, and that is what goes into the shuttle for this machine, which is this guy. You always want to use the shuttle that came with your machine. There are subtle differences between machines and manufacturers, so yeah, finding a replacement if your machine does not come with one of these can be a real bear. These guys, though, you can get both antiques and modern reproductions, and you just want to make sure that they're the same size. My my box of bits came with several of these in them, so I'm pretty well set. So I know that this machine looks a little confusing altogether. When you first take a glance at it, this is the Singer Model 27. It's my treadle machine, and I absolutely love it. This apparatus here is your bobbin winder. So you can see right here, it pivots first of all. So when you're not using it, you set it upward. When you are using it, you pull it forward like this so that it tucks nicely onto the belt, and that will move this dial and wind the bobbin. So the first thing that we're going to do in order to wind this bobbin is we're going to insert it into the machine. And to do that, I'm going to show you something up close that I'm going to do down there in a second. Is you're going to run the thread across the end like that, and then you're going to stick this end into this little hole back here of the machine. I'm just double checking, make sure you can see what I'm doing. All right. Sorry, it's not the greatest, but we're doing our best here. So put the thread over the end, hold it taut, and then place the end of the bobbin here. This little plunger pulls back on the left side and catches the other side of the bobbin. Except for that I didn't manage to actually catch the thread, so I've got to try that again. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. All right. We can do this. It's actually been a little while since I've used this machine. I'm working on a cosplay project right now, and I need to make a ruffled skirt. So I figured, my 27 has a ruffler foot, 2 of them to be precise. Missed it again. So why not make your life easier and use the 27 for this? Ruffler foot. It'll be great. It'll be fun, they said. Go figure out all fresh again how to use attachments you haven't used in a couple of years, they said. All right, I managed to catch the thread this time, so I'm gonna snip off some of this excess just to get it out of the way. All right, so next you take the thread and you put it through the guide, which is right here. And then there's another guide right down here. And then other than that, it goes through the regular way through the machine. This is actually a little loose, but we'll get there. So I do have a little bit of a strange setup so that I can use cones on this machine, thread cones, instead of only certain particular type of regularly wound threads. but your thread would normally be here. Never mind that mine isn't. Your thread comes through this thread guide here, down to the bottom thread guide on the bobbin winder, through the top thread guide on the bobbin winder, and then to the bobbin itself. Try to get the bobbin in there properly. Okay, so now we should be able to start treadling, and this should do its thing. The way I like to start treadling, in case you're wondering, is I like to pull on the balance wheel first, and for Singer machines, it's always going to pull towards you. So pull the balance wheel forward first, and then let that guide my feet into the correct way to be treadling, the correct rhythm. I am not going to mess with the stop motion knob because I have had trouble with the stop motion knob on this machine. The whole thing is working right now, so I don't want to screw with it and possibly make more problems for myself. So here we go. Let's wind a bobbin. Isn't that just kind of satisfying to watch, though? See how brilliantly that works? I highly suspect that these long bobbins probably can hold a lot more thread than our bobbins, regular round bobbins that you would normally see on a sewing machine in modern day. And being as how I'm using white thread for all of this, I'm just going to go ahead and pretty nearly fill this bobbin. I'm watching right here where it's thickest, and you don't want to overload it. It doesn't have an automatic stop like modern machines do, so I'm going to stop it here, right about there. All right, now we have a pretty darn full bobbin. So we take it off thread guides, and cut the thread. Bring it up close for you to see. There you go. Pretty neat, right? All right, so next step is how do we put it in the bobbin, or in the shuttle really? How do we load it in the machine? Okay, we'll just do it right here. So firstly, you want to see that the thread is leading off from left to right. And that is the direction by which you drop it in. It's got this slot here. The thread is automatically going to come into that slot. And you want to put your finger on the top, right? And hold it there so that the bobbin doesn't move when you do this next bit. The thread's going to come all the way down to the bobbin, or bottom. You're going to tug on it, and if you do it right, do you see how now it's going to slide up? Let's see if I can get that to focus a little better. Okay, there we go. Do you see how you can see the thread under the spring here? So it's slotted in correctly. You're going to bring it up. And you see how it's caught on that little catch right there? You're going to tug it until it snaps through that, just like that. Now, you have tension on your thread. It is correctly loaded into this shuttle. If you bounce it, which I'm not going to do, not too hard, but to test the actual tension being correct or not, you should be able to kind of bounce it in the air, and it should release a little bit of thread but then stop. If it's too loose and you can't hold it like this and it just wants to drop completely and unspool, then you need to tighten it using that knob or that screw there. If it doesn't spool off at all, which means it has too much tension, then again, use your little screwdriver and loosen it. So you can, that's how you calibrate your shuttle. Now I'm going to put it back in the machine. So I'm going to move you. Hang on just a second. Now we are going to put this guy back in the machine. So first thing is you want to make sure your shuttle carrier, which is this bit here, is all the way on its arc here. Okay? You got your shuttle, you're properly calibrated. You want to lay it, you know, string and bits upwards and the point towards you. Just like that. You can put your slide plate back on. Come on now. There we go. And since we did, after all, just wind this bobbin, that means I also have to rethread the machine. So we'll do that. Here. Thread guide. Go around and underneath tension discs. Use the catch spring through the hole in the take up lever. Right there. Through your next thread guide right down here. And you have a thread guide here, right at the top of the needle. And then we thread our needle left to right, for which I really want a needle threader. There we go. Found one. This is always a little tricky. If I can thread one of those front to back modern machines just fine. It's these that I have an issue with. It's the left to right. I can't see the hole in the needle. All right, and then just put your finger on your thread, rotate your balance wheel once, and you should be able to then pull up your bobbin thread, and there she is. Come on. It's stuck in the plate. There we go. All right, and since we are doing a ruffler foot, we're going to do this. We're going to thread through the ruffler foot, which I found is, it's kind of convenient to help you start off, but it's not really super necessary to do. This loop goes around the post. This one goes where your foot attachment screw goes. Come on, screw. There we are. Nice and tight. Voila, and now I'm ready to sew. Okay. But just for funsies, I suppose you probably want to see a little bit of sewing. We'll set that on the neutral real quick. Let me grab a piece of paper. All right, I got some fabric. So we are not actually going to ruffle at all. I set it on neutral, so it will not give me ruffles, but we'll at least do a little bit of test stitching just to make sure that everything is threaded and put back together correctly. No, my needle came out. That's embarrassing. All right, let's test it after a little bit of trial and error.
not too bad. Just a little bit of a tension thing happening, but all in all, we're pretty okay. It'll work for what I need today. Anyhow, so I hope this helps. I hope you have a great day. Bye.